record my written now. So written down, sir. I don't say everything. It will change. Can't get it.
ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಪತ್ರಿಕಾಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತೀಯ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ನಾಯಕರು, ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ಮಾಜಿ ಸಚಿವರು ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜಸ್ಥಾನದ ಮಾಜಿ ಉಪಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ನಾಯಕರಾಗಿರುವಂಥ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಸಚಿನ್ ಪೈಲಟ್ ಅವರು ಈ ಪತ್ರಿಕಾಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯನ್ನು ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಪತ್ರಿಕಾಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಪ್ರದೇಶ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಮಿತಿಯ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರಾದಂತಹ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ಡಿ.ಕೆ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಪ್ರದೇಶ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಮಿತಿಯ ಮಾಜಿ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರು, ಮಾಜಿ ಸಚಿವರು ಮತ್ತು ಎಐಸಿಸಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಕಾರಿ ಸಮಿತಿಯ ಸದಸ್ಯರು ಆದಂತಹ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ದಿನೇಶ್ ಗುಂಡೂರಾವ್ ಅವರು, ಮಾಜಿ ಸಚಿವರು, ಹಿರಿಯ ನಾಯಕರು ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶಿವರಾಜ್ ತಂಗಡಿ ಅವರು ಮತ್ತಿತರ ಪದಾಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರನ್ನು ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಪಕ್ಷದ ಪದಾಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಆ ಕಡೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದವ್ರಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಉಳಿದಂತ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಗತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಈಗ ಸಚಿನ್ ಪೈಲಟ್ ಅವರು ಪತ್ರಿಕಾಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯನ್ನು ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ
ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಪ್ರದೇಶ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಮಿತಿಯ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಡಿ.ಕೆ. ಶಿವಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರು ಮಾನ್ಯ ಸಚಿನ್ ಪೈಲಟ್ ಅವರನ್ನ ಗೌರವಿಸಿ ಅಭಿನಂದಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಗಳು.
Want a photograph? Proper photograph.
Thank you.
Where are they?
You want to speak to Gap?
No.
I think you say a few words before it. Nothing?
Don't worry, nothing to do. Every day I'm in touch with them.
Thank you and good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here. Thank you, KPCC President D. Shivakumar ji, our former President Dinesh Gundarao ji, my colleagues in the PCC. Friends, today, as you're aware, the AICC has given out a very strong statement against what the Government of India has outlined a week ago. The Government of India has come out with a policy, the National Monetization Policy, the NMP. I want to spend a few minutes just enunciating what the policy entails and what it is that I think is of great danger for our economy and for the future of this country. Privatization versus disinvestment versus monetization. I think this play of words needs to be explained very clearly. They say the NMP will get a revenue of 6 lakh crores over the next 4 years. 1.5 lakh crores is what the finance minister said they will get by quote unquote monetizing these assets. The question is, what are these assets? We have roads, highways, megawatt power projects, transmission lines, gas pipelines, food grain storage, telecom fiber, telecom towers, airports, ports, national stadiums, mining blocks, and railways. These are all assets, and some of them are core strategic assets. These assets have been built over the last 6 decades with the hard-earned money of our taxpayers. These assets are making money. The Government of India says that they will monetize it to put money into infrastructure. The Prime Minister has on 3 occasions from the Red Fort in Delhi announced 100 lakh crore investment for infrastructure. 3 years consecutively the same announcement has been made, 100 lakh crores for infrastructure. This money the government of India will raise, will it go to fulfill the 5.5 lakh crore deficit that we are running today? Is it there to boost revenues? Is it there to put fresh infrastructure in place? But the monetization and the quote-unquote strategic giving away of our assets is something that the Congress party and the people of India are in opposition. 91, when Manmohan Singh ji was the finance minister, in 91 when Narasimha Rao ji was prime minister, it was the Congress party which started the liberalized economy regime. We have always been pro-investment, pro-growth, and I think to my mind, India is where it is today because of that turn the economy took in 1991. But today, the same BJP, which has the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, the Bharatiya Kisan Sangh, opposing these policies where the government of India says, Atmanirbhar Bharat, today these assets are being put on the block. The question is, where is the process? Where is the transparency? And these railways, ports and airports that are now being given out, Finance Minister says that the ownership will be with the government of India. Now, in 30 to 50 years, when all these assets have been drained from all their value, what will the government of India get back if the lease is not extended? We are of the opinion that these strategic assets and these public sector undertakings, these infrastructures, if they are given to few individuals, it will create in our economy either monopolies or duopolies. And I've been a Minister for Corporate Affairs and I know there is a Competition Commission of India where the government of the day objective and focus is there should be fair competition, healthy competition. But when you only have a handful of players in very important sectors such as aviation, railways, coal mining, power transmission, you create monopolies and duopolies. Then the taxpayer will be charged more money and we will end up in a system where, and here's the irony of it, the public sector undertakings were constructed when land was acquired almost free or very cheap. So the taxpayer, the Indian citizen, gave its tax money, land and assets for the government to develop public sector. That public sector for the last 50-60 years has been working. So today, the people who will actually finance this purchase, the quote-unquote leasing of 50 years, they will take money from public sector banks, private entities, buy public sector, lay off people, reduce the jobs, make profits, and give 1.5 lakh crores. Now the government of India fails to tell us they are making 1.5 lakh crores, but what it is that these assets are giving us today, we're only making the difference, you see. Congress party's manifesto last time, general election, we had said that loss-making entities, which are non-strategic in nature, please I underscore this, they were non-strategic in nature, loss-making entities, which did not have a large market share of any sector, they would be allowed to have investments. Or we could think of making more money by selling off some shares of those assets. But this government, I think the handling of the economy, we have the highest unemployment rates in India ever. We have seen poverty rise. We have seen the rich getting very rich. We have seen gross mismanagement during the COVID crisis. We have seen every sector of our economy fall apart. The government of India gave 20 lakh crore stimulus package. I wish to ask the government of India, who has benefited from that package? Every large country in the world gave what the Congress party has been saying, Mr. Gandhi has been saying, that you give money to the poorest, give money to the middle classes so that they are able to consume and purchase more. But the government of India tried to give a stimulus package, which is all imaginary, and 20 lakh crores, I remember those press conferences where they went at length to explain how much money they were giving the stimulus package, but the result was that the economy is shrinking, the small and medium enterprise is shrinking, job losses are at highest, poverty is increased, and all sectors the government has failed to perform. I do take the point that government should not be in the business of running hotels perhaps or even airlines, the tourism sector for example. But the railways, mining, telecom sector, any right thinking country will understand that those are strategic assets. And what stops the PE funds or international funds to make an SPV and invest through an Indian entity and pick up stake in these very important strategic assets? So this question is not just about gross mismanagement of the economy. The question is, what is India's priority? I think it is not just the Congress party, but every right-thinking Indian will ask the question that if you are able to not generate revenues, should you be selling a family silver at this rate? And here was a government which had opposed everything when UPA was in power. They opposed the US nuclear deal, they opposed liberalized economy, they opposed WTO, they opposed Aadhaar card when we started the Aadhaar card, they opposed the direct benefit transfers when we started that, they opposed the GST, and now there's a complete turnaround in what they say and what they do. Today the biggest challenge we face is that the government has actually stopped caring about the price rise that we face. Today, petrol and diesel is costing more than 100 rupees a litre. I mean, I was in Rajasthan in some place and they said, sir, that petrol diesel now costs more than desi ghee. You know what pure ghee costs? I remember the statements of our friends in BJP when the petrol diesel was 60 rupees a litre, 65 rupees a litre. The cooking gas cylinder is now 900 rupees a cylinder. Instead of curbing inflation, instead of setting the economy right, they have actually, I think, squandered away a lot of the money in vanity projects. The priority is absolutely defocused. Inflation is its highest. And look at the slogans we've heard in the last 7 years. We've heard smart cities. We've heard Swachh Bharat, Stand Up India, Start Up India, Make in India. The Ganga, is it any cleaner than it was? So in 7 years, we've had 17 slogans and delivery has been zero. But this particular issue that's been taken up, there was no stakeholders that were invited or called for consultations when the modernization policy was announced. There was no talks with trade unions. And I fear at a time where jobs are so scarce that selling off of these assets, the private entities, when they take over, they will certainly lay off huge number of people to be more profitable. That means more jobs will be lost. No discussion with trade unions, no discussion with stakeholders, no discussion. Parliament though has become a mockery because Government of India does not believe in having a healthy debate in Parliament. So therefore, all these things, there was no consultation paper, there was no views invited, there was no discussion of any sort. It was just a unilateral decision, which this government is known for, decided, announced the NMP, and say the process is also not very well illustrated. So our fear is that not only the process is questionable, but the end beneficiaries, will it be the same people who we suspect will get a hands on India's ports, railways and airports, and coal mining and power transmission and a cable network and an underground fiber network? These are important assets. They have taken a lot of effort to make those assets. It's not a party's property. A government is only a trustee of the people of India. It has to act with transparency. It has to show credibility. It has to show that its heart and policies are in the right place. Sad to say, it's the complete opposite today in New Delhi. The Government of India, the way it's functioned, leaves a lot to be desired for. I think what is also important is that the Government of India is known for marketing and branding. I recall we had a very successful polio eradication program. For decades it went on. I never saw the then Prime Ministers or the then leaders of the government marketing themselves or making the people feel obliged that we're giving a free polio. You know, remember those Do Boond polio? Everybody got that for free. It was a mass national campaign and we had a huge success. Similarly, the HIV campaign, the NACO campaign. But this vaccination itself was very controversial because it was being sold to governments, different price for Government of India, different price for state governments, and then different price for hospitals. Clearly there will be black marketing and hoarding when you have the same product and three different prices. After a lot of pressure, they said, okay, fine, we'll get it for free. And now the branding and marketing has taken over the entire exercise of the Government of India. So I think a lot needs to be discussed before we go ahead with this. We are here not just to oppose what the government is doing in terms of the asset selling off, but also the fact that it begs the question about our integrity, our security issues, and the fact that no one was taken on board. To get this 1.5 lakh crores that they're doing by giving this asset for 50, 30 years, and then they say ownership will be the Government of India. What is the ownership? It's a piece of paper. 5 decades later, if the lease is renewed, the entity gets to keep the asset, and if you get it back, what is the depreciated value? I must know when I'm giving something to somebody for 50 years, in what condition will I get it back? What will be the market price of that asset when I get it back in 50 years? So this sort of collusion is something that the people want answers for. And I'm here today in Mangaluru to share with you what the party's stand is on these particular issues. I think it's important to ask the right questions. It's important for the government to take cognizance of what the opposition says. It's important to answer us, not just outside, but inside of Parliament. Sadly, the last Parliament session was a washout because of the various questions that were asked of the government and they had no replies. So the best is to keep adjourning the House and not having to answer the question that the MPs are raising. So the Congress party is very clear on what it stands for vis-a-vis this issue and all other issues, whether it's issues of on stooping on people. When I say the decision is unilateral, you will understand when the government of India can impose on this nation's farmers those 3 farm bills that the whole country is opposing. I mean, this NMP policy also was done without any consultation. And I'm sad to say, as a farmer for last almost a year, our farmers on the streets, what happened in Haryana 2 days ago, the brutality of the Haryana police, it's shameful. And I'm absolutely surprised that the Chief Minister of Haryana is defending the officials who are giving orders on record to break the farmers' heads. This sort of brute force, this violence, is not reflective of our democracy, of our ethos. We may be different parties, but this country belongs to everybody. So this systematic dismantling of our principles, of our ideology, what this country stands for, of shedding apart our constitutional values, of using brute force to suppress voice, to spy on people, to muffle the voice of the opposition. I think the Congress party has taken a very firm stand. No matter what the cost to us, we will continue to raise our voices, to talk about the people and the farmers. And this particular issue of national monetization policy is something that the country is opposing, and the Congress party is standing against this move, and we will go to any extent to make sure that the government does not go ahead with this really lopsided mandate that they have for themselves. And finally, I believe that politics is about governance. When you get elected to positions of power, you have to use that position to benefit the people. I don't know if this selling of these assets will double the farmer's income. I don't know if this money will actually go to all the people. 15 lakh rupees that was announced and proposed for every citizen in India to get that money. It will just be to make a new building complex or to do some vanity projects. Therefore, the intention, the policy, the agenda, the process of the policy itself is in question. So we are here to oppose it. I want to thank Honorable President of KPCC, Jiv Kumarji, and of course former President for having me here and for the warm welcome that I received. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
Sachin, you're talking to strategic assets. During this course, the national security is at risk.
Look, I don't want to be sounding alarmist, but when you have, and you will understand this, there are some countries that have actually forbidden the Chinese entities to bid for telecom towers, for fiber optic cables. Australia has done it, Europe has done it, US has done it. So we have no such safeguards in place. It's, RailTel, the railways, the cable network, the fiber optics, the telecom towers, to my mind, are strategic assets. No other country of our size and scale can think of them not as strategic assets. So is there a safeguard on how these, when the bidding happens, how do we safeguard that there are no entities who are not appropriate for bidding? There are no safeguards for that. And I think in any case, if you have a hotel that is run by Government of India or by state government or by an airline, look at the track record of Government of India, right? So they tried to privatize or disinvest Air India. It's been 7 years. They have tried to disinvest BPCL, HPCL, so they couldn't find anybody, so they asked ONGC to invest in that. So asking a PSU to invest in another PSU, no one can explain the logic to me why that is happening. So I'm absolutely agreeing with you that there are strategic assets, and if they are put on the block, the questions of security, questions of integrity, questions of foreign powers trying to find their ways inside our country are up for question. So I think government should clarify if there are any safeguards put in place for the NMP policy that we have today.
How are things back home?
In Rajasthan, it's not as warm, it's getting better now.
So yesterday, the Indian ambassador held dialogue with the Taliban counterparts in Doha. What would you like to say? Would you comment on the Congress?
I don't know I know there was a meeting in Qatar, so I don't want to comment because I don't know what transpired. I do wish to say that India must be very nuanced in its stand. It has a very important geopolitical situation to deal with, And we know the brutality that the Taliban regime inflicted on its people when they were in power for 5 years. And 20 years later, have we moved forward? I've seen the statements coming out from the Taliban spokesperson, but I think a lot needs to be seen on their actions. It's one word to say something, but the kinds of attacks we've seen from the counter forces in Afghanistan, in Kabul, the bomb blasts, etc. It worries us because it's our extended neighborhood. And does that give leverage to Pakistan? Are we allowing that to happen? These are very important questions that the government must take full cognizance. And I think on issues of national security, issues of protecting our borders, there are no two opinions in that. But we have to be firm and we have to be very clear as to what we want. So far, we've not heard a very clear outline strategy on how to deal with that. I'm waiting for the government of India's first response.
Do you feel there should be a dialogue?
I'm no one to say that. I think our safety, our Indians who are stuck there, our strategic interest are paramount. Whatever it takes to keep those secure, we should do that. It's up to the government to respond. But I just feel that it's our near neighborhood, and we should not do anything that will jeopardize our internal security. And like I said earlier, what stops from, Imran Khan has actually welcomed the regime. So what stops Pakistan from making use of that new dispensation? So they are very important questions. And national security, to my mind, is paramount than anything else.
So there's a debate regarding the possibility of Prashant Kishore joining the Congress. What's your take on that?
I don't want to comment on hearsay, right? So lots of things are being said and done. So I don't want to comment on something that's not substantial.
So do you think this type of simple press conference is sufficient to stop the NMP implementation by government of India? Do you have any action plan yet, and why? Why? Because I'm asking everywhere left and right, groupism is prevailing in your party. Besides yourself, you are in Punjab, you can see Telangana, everywhere. How can you achieve your goal, whatever you said now?
You see, different parties have different ways of functioning. I don't want to comment on other parties because that's the internal process.
Your state,
So
what about Telangana?
if you give me a chance, I'll finish.
Karnataka, still groupism is there, Kerala also.
You want to add some more states? You want to add something else to the question?
That is
Oh,
sufficient
okay,
for
right.
you.
Yeah. So I think, I want to say to you that the Congress party is in opposition in most states. We are in opposition in Delhi. But please be very clear about this. Any political party that has the bandwidth, the presence, the strength, determination and resilience to take on the BJP nationally, it is the Congress party. Now we have a lot of our allies who are in different states, they're in power, they're in opposition, but it is only the Congress party that can give a challenge and overtake the BJP at the general elections. So in our party, unlike some other parties, there is room for discussion. Of course, sometimes discussions are not as pleasant as one would like it to be, but ultimately, the voice of the party worker, the voice of the state leader, voice of national leaders are heard, discussed, and we come up with a unanimous decision ultimately. I think it's in a robust democratic setup, it's okay to do that. I don't want to comment on other parties which are totally different in terms of the functioning. But as far as Congress is concerned, our singular focus now is to strengthen. And to your question, sir, I have been party president in Rajasthan for almost 7 years. And even nationally, it is the Congress that is taking the pains to make the public aware. If it's a press conference, we'll do that. If it's a dharna, we'll do that. If it's a morcha, we'll do that. If it's a rally, we'll do that. If it's a ghera, we'll do that. If you have to face lathi charge, we'll do that. We've done it before. But interest of the people is more important. Not just BJP in Congress. This is a national issue, and we will do whatever it takes within the framework of our constitution and keeping the law of the land in focus. We will do whatever it takes.
So, in the
Your
past,
immediate action plan in respect of agitation and other things.
We are bringing the people, making them aware of what is going on. If the government still does not listen, we will do whatever it takes. Constitutionally, we have a very solid plan, sir, and you will what? In the next days and weeks to come, the government will have to go on a back foot.
in the past, there have been questions of the High Command of the Congress has been distinct from the state issues. Now, in Jallianwala Bagh Memorial, there is now once again a difference of opinion. Rahul Gandhi has contended.
I think just because some statement has come which is not, you can't put those two in context. I think everyone is free to have the opinion, but ultimately what the party in AICC says and does is the view of the party.
So what is your final call in that respect? Is it a restoration or it has to be preserved? But they have corporatizing. What is your opinion on it?
You're talking about which? No, I'd look, it's a historical situation, it's a historical moment, and we all have our emotions attached to it. We must, it's not the structure in the building, it's the event and the tragedy that happened that we must keep close to our hearts and make sure that we remember the sacrifice of the people who were shot dead there. That's far more important.
When your cabinet will be extended, sir, in Rajasthan? Yes, you have found postponing for several days now.
I think the AICC and the Chief Minister are in discussions, and as and when we have news on whatever happens, you will get to know.
Because there are reports that the High Command has given not to the cabinet.
I don't know such reports, but I know that Mr. Makan, who's in charge of Rajasthan, has had many rounds of consultations with MLAs in Rajasthan and with leaders, and we're all in touch. So as and when the event happens, you'll all get to know.
They also want to in charge of Gujarat.
Sorry?
Have the issues been resolved that you had raised before putting in the committee?
Like I said, there was a committee formed last year, and unfortunately Ahmed Patel ji is no more with us. But the other two members and the AICC, I'm in constant touch. Whatever I had to say, which I thought was important for a better functioning of our Congress government. And as you know, last 25 years, governments have not been able to repeat themselves in Rajasthan. And I think it's important for us to win every election we contest. In Rajasthan is a strong Congress state, so I felt there were some views I needed to share, which I did. And the Congress president took cognizance of those views, formed a committee. We're working towards achieving those targets. But I think it's important to share views and thoughts on how we can better have a functioning government where every party worker feels stakeholder in the setup. Right? We all worked hard to make the government. Now there's a sense of ownership and stakeholdership that must be inculcated. And that's what we believe will make sure that we win the next elections. So those issues are being worked out now.
So you're going to be made in charge probably soon in Gujarat.
I don't want to speculate. Like I said, I don't want to speculate.
Because there are also reports that your factions, MLAs, at least 4 MLAs will be inducted into the cabinet. So what do you have to say on that?
You see, there are lots of news today because there's so many news channels, so many websites, so many newspapers. Everyone has a different version of what's going on. Ultimately, we must wait and see what the AICC announces, and everything will be in front of you. But to answer your question broadly, it's been a year since the committee was formed, had many discussions, and I think the party and the government need to work together to make sure that in 23, when the elections come again, we're able to fulfill all the promises of our manifesto and come back. We have a clear majority now, but to make sure we come back with a bigger majority, we have to work even harder. That everybody understands and accepts. Right. Haji.
राजस्थान के पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री, राजस्थान के पूर्व प्रदेश कांग्रेस अध्यक्ष, इसके साथ साथ एक नया पद आ रहा है असंतुष्ट कांग्रेस से, इसका तफावत।
हम सब कांग्रेस पार्टी में देखिए अपनी बात रखने का अधिकार सब लोगों को है, और हम जो भी कहते हैं वो पार्टी के हित के लिए है। पार्टी नेतृत्व, पार्टी संगठन, पार्टी सरकार कैसे मजबूत हो, प्राथमिकता ये रहती है। और मैं पार्टी का अध्यक्ष रहा लगभग 7 साल। हम लोगों ने राजस्थान के अंदर उपचुनाव हो, विधानसभा का, लोकसभा का, नगर पालिका का, पंचायत का, डेयरी का, कृषि मंडी का, सब चुनावों में, और मैं आपको फिर कहना चाहता हूं, चुनाव सिर्फ विधानसभा लोकसभा के नहीं होते हैं। चुनाव पंचायत के, जिला परिषद के, कॉर्पोरेशन के, वार्ड के, मेयर के, कृषि मंडी के, फूल मंडी के, डेयरी के, ये सब चुनाव जनता के चुनाव होते हैं। उन चुनावों में अगर अपने लोगों को मजबूत करिएगा तो स्वतः ही पार्टी मजबूत होती चली जाएगी। और मुझे लग रहा है कि हम लोगों को आने वाले समय में न सिर्फ इन राज्यों के अंदर लेकिन तमाम प्रदेश देश के अंदर मजबूत करने की जरूरत है। मैं फिर दोहराना चाहता हूं कि 2024 में जब लोकसभा चुनाव आएंगे पुनः, तब देश में सिर्फ एकमात्र विकल्प है जो भाजपा को हर गांव, तहसील, पंचायत, जिला, प्रदेश में चुनौती दे सकता है, और सिर्फ कांग्रेस पार्टी दे सकती है। इस बात को सब स्वीकार करते हैं। इसलिए सभी विपक्ष के दलों को मिलकर काम करना चाहिए, और अपने छोटे मोटे अंतर विरोध अगर हैं भी किसी के, तो बड़े लक्ष्य के लिए उसको अलग रखकर देश का चुनाव इकट्ठा लड़ना चाहिए। और मुझे लगता है कि इस सरकार से लोग अब ऊब चुके हैं और बदलाव चाहते हैं। I think let's keep focus on the national monetary policy because there's no end to these questions. And by the way, who becomes what, who takes over what position, who's minister, who's party president, who's chief minister, not that decision is taken by the party leadership in Delhi. So let's wait and see. Thank you. Thank you.